Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Kim Duramo, and I have a special presentation I put together because of some electromagnetic resources I've found to be really powerful medicine. And I've been using them myself as well as with some clients and some friends and other people just to practice with this and have found some pretty amazing results. I'm going to share this in a presentation as well as some pieces about my outlook with this. For those of you who don't know me, I am a physician. I'm practicing mind-body medicine specifically now over the last 10 years or so. I've studied it for decades and decades and decades and seen really remarkable things. I think this is the most powerful way to practice medicine. And so I've left my practice as an emergency medicine doctor. I was board certified as an emergency medicine doctor, and that was where I started my career. But now I have developed a career as an osteopathic doctor and, shared a lot more about how the body heals itself. One of the big things I've seen throughout my work, especially in the group where I work with individuals in the Embracing Health group to help people heal from chronic illness and help people really shift their consciousness so that the body strengthens. One of the things I've seen is that as we become more highly sensitive and become more aware that we are pure energy, not primarily physical, it changes the way what the body needs. It changes the way the body is responding to foods and to our environment and to other things. And what's needed to nurture our body is very different than what's needed to nurture the body, maybe for someone else who's really not highly sensitive and not empathic or aware that they are energy or moving so much energy through their body so quickly. So this was derived from my own personal experience as well as work with others. Because for me, I realized the more I'm moving so much energy through my body on like a minute to minute basis, things move really fast for me. And I realized well, it kind of makes sense. That's what's going to nurture my body is going to be very different from when I am just functioning purely physically. We are a giant battery. And so we've got to pay attention to the electromagnetics. So I am going to share my screen. And I've basically came to this because the individuals in my Embracing Health program, I was sharing some things about this, and here we go. We'll go from here, and kind of promise hey, I'm gonna share what this stuff is when I really get this together, because of some things I've been doing personally. I thought this would be really useful for so many others. So here are the slides I created to walk you through this, and I know maybe just looks not so awesome, but this is, I think, the best we can do so I can still be on the screen and communicate. So the first piece is, in fact, maybe I can just do it like this. And that, yeah, here we go. That will work. So I called this presentation Get Salty, Cell Salts and Electromagnetic Support for Highly Sensitive Beings. So really the premise is you are a giant battery, and we all are, every human being, but people who are highly sensitive and empathic and moving so much energy and consciously creating, we're like processing things in a higher speed. And it's even more important to pay attention to our electromagnetics, right? You're a giant battery, you got to replete the battery so it can continue to function the way you want it to. So the old perspective of like food and nutrition and the body was like, here's the 4 food groups, way back. I was born in the 70s and that was around then. And then it was like, whoa, it's about calories and how much energy you're taking in. And, if you want to be healthier, you've got to restrict the calories so that the body can kind of rev up and, it's not getting too many calories. Then it came into, oh no, it's the types of calories, protein, carbs, fats. And we got really manipulative with that. Like, let's eat high protein, let's eat low fat. Then it was like, let's eat low carbs. We've, probably maxed yourself out on that. Recently is like organic versus non-organic food is a big thing you hear about. There's a lot of toxins in the non-organic food. So obviously is a good idea. Then there's the whole movement around vitamins. You need to have the right nutrition and vitamins. Intermittent fasting, which actually is one thing I kind of do subscribe to. I'll give myself at least a 12-hour fast every day. And I think this is one of the things that helps my body kind of keep functioning in a high frequency. But the next sort of frontier that I don't really think anyone has properly explored or brought to the forefront is minerals. Because we are electromagnetic, we've got to replete the battery. We've got to start thinking about minerals, and specifically trace minerals. So when we think about salts, we've got like sodium, magnesium, calcium, potassium. There's so many salts in the body, and your body will regulate these. You know, you have healthy kidney function, you're probably going to be pretty well off with the sort of the macro salts. But there are intra and extracellular salts we want to think about. There's the salts outside the cells floating around in the matrix, and then there's the salts inside the cells. And this is where trace minerals and also homeopathic salts come into play. I had learned nothing about this whatsoever in medical school, but I've actually seen really incredible things, especially with like chronic fatigue. When you don't have enough energy, you've got to replete the battery. Weird aches and pains, you've got to replete the battery. Illnesses, like mystery illnesses that don't seem to be, healing no matter what you do, you've got to think about this. So trace minerals and homeopathic salts are like teeny, infinitesimally smaller version of that salt from the macro salt, which is the extracellular. So to feed the cells, we've got to go more micro. Okay. So this is my whole theory about salt balance. We are electromagnetic. Our body is a giant battery. And you know that energy conduction is like proper energy conduction is going to require good repletion of those trace minerals and micro salts. And I can't even believe the results of like how much more energized I feel when I do this. So it's a continuum that I think of from, the physical over here on the left side. I'm just a physical body. And now I'm telling you, your consciousness will affect your bodily function. Your consciousness affects your genetics. Your consciousness affects your digestion. Your consciousness affects your immune system function. Your consciousness directly affects your brain. When we move up on that continuum to being like functioning more electromagnetically, right? Like I understand I am primarily energetic. I'm primarily vibrational and secondarily physical. Like don't knock the physical, still play around in the realm of the physical, but I don't identify with the physical. I know I'm electromagnetic. Now, this is a whole different consciousness. For those of you who are highly sensitive, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about. And you witness like your body does things other people's bodies couldn't do. Maybe you've actually only witnessed the downside of this. Like, wow, I'm just always getting sick and I have so many symptoms. I'm exhausted. I'm not repleted. I witnessed this in medical school when I was like studying pathology and disease, and my body would literally manifest exactly those symptoms and disease states, physical disease states that I was focusing on. And it was like, why? What's going on? Our cells are listening. And the more empathic you are, the more highly sensitive, the more you are functioning in this more vibrational way. A lot of people don't really know how to work with that, which is why I'm doing the work I'm doing. And especially in the Embracing Health program, teaching you about your electromagnetics, teaching about how to work with the energy body, showing people how to let go of the old consciousness of fear and move into a more harmonic frequency of I embrace myself as I am. And so many like superpowers come in with that, where we begin to function in a different way. And yes, the body can heal very, very quickly when we function in this end of the spectrum in a conscious way. So this is my sort of continuum. And what I've seen is what nurtures this body over here, the electromagnetic body, is very different than what kind of things we think are required when we see the body as only physical. So one of the big things, and this is like a little plug for this company that I use, it's called Element. And I came across this maybe a year ago and thought that sounds pretty awesome. I particularly have always like craved salt. I'm really, really into salt. I'll get like the most amazing Himalayan salt and, you know, the gray Celtic salt and the salts that have a lot of minerals in them. So for many, many years now, I've done that. And I've been surprised at like how much my body loves salt until I found this company, and they were talking a lot about how, it's not just about repleting like the sugars. A lot of electrolyte replacement drinks have tons of sugars and like a lot of chemicals and artificial stuff in them, but they're not necessarily the best way to replete the minerals and the electrolytes. And these guys are really nailing it. The founder actually had this story of his own health challenges where he's like, I'm really not advancing, and what do I need? And he learned, from one of his coaches or trainers, like, you've got to get this dialed in and replete the electrolytes and the minerals the right way. So I actually use this every day. I love it. Sometimes a couple times a day. I'll immediately feel that electromagnetic reboot, and I'll immediately feel way, way, way more energized. I do have an affiliate link with them, which means they send me like free product and stuff. And there is like a commission our business gets because we're sharing this. So just to, you know, let you know about what that is. So you can use this link. You could just go to their website and buy it if you want to do that. But you can use this link and they'll know that you have come from what I've shared. It's drinklmnt.com/DRKIMD, drinklmnt.com/Dr. Kim D. And they will know that you came from my recommendation. But either way, you can order it any way you'd like. I love this product. This is another way to replete electrolytes and minerals. I've used this before for many years. I don't use it very often because it doesn't taste awesome, but it is going to replete your electrolytes and minerals. So those are just trace mineral drops. You can get it at like a Whole Foods or a natural grocer, and you just put several drops into your water and drink it. And if you just put a little bit, actually, I like the way it tastes, but that's not nearly enough of what's recommended. So you have to put a lot more. It's kind of salty, but this is definitely going to do the trick. Okay, so this is the meat of what I wanted to talk about in this presentation, because this is what I discovered back in May, several months back, and started saying, whoa, this makes a ton of sense. So a physician named Schussler, who's an MD German physician, and this was like over 100 years ago, discovered that the body has these particular micro salts. And if you burn the whole body down, it will compound specifically to these main 12 cell salts. Like every cell in your body has these particular salts. And what he found was there are specific deficiencies in these salts that would show up a specific way. Meaning if you were deficient in this particular one, these are the symptoms you'd have. If you were deficient in that particular one, you'd have that array of symptoms. And when we replete these salts, the body would heal. It would rebalance and recalibrate and exhibit health. So this was in 1873, obviously before the medical system got taken over by essentially like a bunch of business men who wanted to monopolize the entire study of medicine, both the academics as well as the practice. And they have since created institutions to limit what's able to be learned in school, what's able to be practiced under this licensure, who can get licensed, who can't. And so a lot of things like this have fallen away, meaning they're not really being taught in the mainstream because the mainstream is in that monopoly. These are kind of lost as far as I'm concerned. I had never heard about this until more recently. And I thought, this is brilliant. So there are 12 main salts. And around the time when Schussler came out with this, this concept and this method of treating, it was really a new understanding that the body is a collection of cells. So Virchow, who was also a German, but a scientist, had this cell theory that your body is a collection of cells, and to heal the body, we should focus on healing the individual cell, right? Like if you nurture a cell, you're going to have a healthy, happy, nurtured body. So Dr. Schussler kind of took this really seriously. He found there were these 12 main cell salts. There are other sub cell salts, but these are the main ones. And this is going to be the prime focus of where I'm at here. They're also called tissue salts, bioplasma cell salts. We'll get them in food, we'll get them in water, we'll get them in the soil and the plants. And these are the intracellular micro salts, not the larger salts that are outside the cell. And I thought it was pretty incredible. And I've read several things about that, as well as, like I said, started playing with this and practicing with this and really seen incredible things where rashes or symptoms or illness, even like acute illness, when someone's starting to get a sore throat, there's certain ones you can take, fever. My little child is 3 and he's had really just unbelievable growing pains. So he'll just complain of like pain in his legs and he's crying. And I'm like, what do we do? And I've asked all my doctor friends and everyone says the same thing, just rub it until he feels better. And I thought, well, that doesn't make sense. Like why he sometimes has it, sometimes he doesn't, or why sometimes other kids have it and other kids don't. There's got to be something going on in the body. And I started repleting a particular cell salt and he has not had those symptoms at all since. Okay, so the potencies are in homeopathic doses. So there's 3x and there's 6x, which is what I have been using. The more you dilute it, the greater the potency. So homeopathics, you could go to 12x, you could go up to 60x, you could go higher, and these are more of a micro dose, but it's an increased potency. So if you've ever used homeopathics, you have like a 30C, a 200C, a 1M, you get an increased dilution of that compound, and it actually increases the potency. You don't want to necessarily mess around with these things, but these are very, very safe for home use. You're not going to have any side effects with cell salts. You're not going to have any side effects using homeopathy, but it can get kind of complex when you learn more and more about homeopathy, which is why I have a specialist that I consult with. I have not used it, prescribed this myself. So these are in homeopathic doses. So we'll find evidence of cell salt deficiency. There'll be certain physical symptoms. It can be acute or it can be more of a long-term chronic thing. And then there's also some emotional symptoms that can go along with that if there's a more severe chronic deficiency. Okay, so I'm going to go through each of the 12 cell salts. I just think this is a great education if you're going to start to utilize this at home. But I have some resources at the end with one of the books I read that I thought was the easiest, actually 2, and an awesome practitioner who can give you a little bit more of an in-depth consult if you want to go in that direction. So Calc Fluor is number 1 in the Highlands brand of cell salt, which is kind of the most popular one that you're going to buy. It's calcium fluoride. Okay, so it's a homeopathic dose of this cell salt. When you have deficiency, it leads to hardening in the body, swelling of tissue, skin, and vessels. So things like hemorrhoids, varicose veins, swollen glands. If you ever get sick and you start having swelling in the glands underneath your jaw with like a sore throat, there's another cell salt that goes along with the sore throat as well. But swollen glands, also glands can get swollen in the groin region. Uterine prolapse, which I actually had a little bit of bladder prolapse after my second child, and I did use this and had a really great result to replete the tissue tension, the tissue texture. Loose teeth and cavities. So you think of the tissue there, it's got to be like a good foundation for the teeth. Osteoporosis, corneal problems, so the tissue of the cornea, muscle weakness, tendon and ligament injuries. So if you think you have, acute tendon or ligament injuries, this could be helpful, but also something that's not getting better. And you're like, geez, my tendon or ligament is still kind of inflamed or not working well. You can replete with calcium fluoride. Now you'll typically do 4 little tiny tablets, put them in the cap, and then you just put it under your tongue. Don't touch it with your fingers. Just put it right under your tongue and let it dissolve. And you do that twice a day for something that you want to address. And then chapping or cracking in the skin of the hands and toes. So not great skin texture. All right, calcium fluoride. This second one is Califos, number 2 in the Highlands brand. They're all labeled 1 through 12. And I think they're a little different in the European labeling. So this is US. Calcium phosphate. So this is going to build bones and strengthen the tissue tone and the blood. For acute disease or infection, take some calcium phosphate. This can help the body overcome that. Anemia, you have low blood count. Feeling run down in general. So you're like overworked, overexerted, and feeling depleted. Childhood development and growing pains. Ding, 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 ding. This is what I used for my little, my little 3-year-old, and had a really great result. Used for the elderly to regenerate, to just regenerate the tissue in general. Think about like, you know, you're elderly, you're run down, you want to replete this salt, and in nerve degeneration in the elderly as well, which is very, very common that they'll have problems with the nerves, and degeneration can lead to like numbness and tingling in the hands and feet, weakness in the hands and feet, osteoporosis again, nosebleeds, teething problems, and you can use it in addition to the Mag Phos, which is coming up soon, for muscle cramps and spasms. They recommend putting 5 tablets in hot water and sipping it over, taking a sip every 3 hours. So muscle cramps, PMS cramps, muscle spasms, Mag Phos is really great for that. And calcium phosphate can be added to the Mag Phos. You make a little cup with hot water and drink it, 5 tablets, dissolve it in hot water and drink it, sip every 3 hours. Calc sulf is number 3, skin cells, tissue builder. Now you're going to see a lot of like overlap here, but they work a little bit differently. So this is like the glue that holds the cells of tissues together. So if there are things like acne, pimples, disruption in the skin, abscess and pus drainage, or open infection, this is going to help repair the integrity of the skin tissue. Fibroids, which is uterine fibroids, you're getting excess muscle mass in the uterus, uterine lining. Nasal discharge, so you get like the gunky junky. You can use it in addition to silica for wound healing. Silica we'll talk about later. Calcium sulfate also has a detoxification and cleansing effect. So if you have an infection you're suffering from and you're helping the body clear an infection, calc sulf will help the body clear that. You can use the 6x potency or a higher potency than that in that case. Okay, ferrous, number 4. This is ferrous phosphate, so iron phosphate. This is a first aid remedy. Think of like ferritin is in the blood, helps us carry oxygen. So first aid remedy or early fever, early illness. So this is that like acute infection, sore throat, oh, I don't feel so good, but you're early on, maybe early stage of fever. This is a great remedy right up front with that acute illness. Again, you do 4 tablets. If it's an acute illness, you can do it every couple of hours. But for all the other things we're talking about that are more like a general condition, use it twice a day. Delivers the oxygen, strengthen the walls of the arteries, can be used for abnormal bleeding and nosebleeds, sore throat, pulsing, throbbing type headache, or an ailment in children and elderly. So we saw earlier there was a great, there were, ones we wanted to use for that were good for children and elderly. This is another one that's really good when there is imbalance or symptoms in children or elderly people. All right, Calimere is potassium chloride, essential part of the muscles, nerves, blood, brain cells, and fibrin. Fibrin is like the connective tissue, this density that holds cells together and gives the tissue integrity. This is a building agent, rebuilding your health after an illness, repleting your energy and vitality. So for someone with sluggishness, or you've had a chronic illness, or you've had a recent hit like a viral illness and you want to recover really well, Calimere number 5 is a really great one for that. Burn treatment. So if you got any kind of burn that's been significant, coughs, colds, chills, and bronchitis, your body could use some repletion, and this will really help with the blood, the immune system. Heals sore throat and eustachian tubes, and this is a good later stage fever. So if someone's got an acute illness, but they're in that second stage where the fever is getting higher, you can use Cali Mirror. So where we had in the previous slide, ferrous for that early acute illness, this is in that second stage of a fever, temperature of 101 to 103. And again, you can do it every couple of hours when you're in that acute fever stage. All right, Califos, number 6, potassium phosphate, is a nerve nutrient, restores order to the mind and body. This is like nature's Valium. So if you think you take a deep breath and you're like, that is Califos, potassium phosphate cell salt. So when they talk about jangled nerves where things you're like overstimulated, think of this one. You can use this for that acute situation, or if you're kind of in a chronic anxiety situation. Multiple practitioners have said this is like nature's Valium. You can also use it to address grief, despair, or long periods of sorrow that are not resolving. This is good for shingles, which when you have an acute infection or acute outbreak of shingles. Nervous headaches, meaning you're that same kind of thing, like that over anxiety, overstimulated type of situation along with a headache. This will be very helpful to resolve that headache. Also useful in depression. And then students with brain fog, and it's a stress remedy for overwhelm. So if you think of students and they're like focusing, sitting, reading, studying in that analytical mind, this is a great remedy to kind of counteract that and allow a restoration throughout the body. If there's sleep difficulty, and it's kind of like the sleep difficulty that goes along with these particular things, like overstimulated nervous system, studying, focusing, stress and overwhelm, and you've got depression, headaches, or sleep difficulty, these will be this will be a really powerful remedy. And then Dr. Skye Weintraub, who wrote one of the books I studied, said this is one of the greatest healing agents known to humankind. I thought that was worth noting in this presentation because that's a pretty powerful thing to say. And I think the reason he's found that is because so many of us are so very overstimulated, and then we'll like use the mind to try to manage more problems. It's really, stimulating our nervous system. And this is a powerful remedy to address that and rebalance that state. Okay, Calisulf is number 7, potassium sulfate. This acts like a lubricant, distributing oils in the body. So like at joints, if you want to like lubricate, like putting some grease in between the joints, it is useful for that next stage of fever, severe high fever, 103 to 105. Now, I, as a physician, am not saying, oh, just throw this on board and like ignore any other symptoms. And don't, if you have a child with a temperature of 104 and 105, you want to really make sure you consult with a physician. They can get dehydrated very easily. They could have, other issues that need to be addressed. So you don't want to just like, oh, just throw this on board and see what happens. You want to be also getting a full evaluation at that point. But this is very helpful for inflammation that's happening in the body, for severe fever that happens with that later stage. So skin healing, clogged pores, think it's going to help redistribute oil. So if you've got like greasy skin, clogged pores, yellow discharge, those things, this can be really powerful to help redistribute the oils in the body. Swollen glands and cancer is also something that they may be very deficient in Calisulf, potassium sulfate. So you want to put that on board if you're experiencing or have had a diagnosis of cancer. All right, MagPhos. This is really powerful. I've used magnesium tablets, like the, more the macro salt for years, and found like it really helps relax muscles, really helps release tension, helps with sleep, helps with calming. This is different. This is the micro salt, remember. So MagPhos is number 8 on Highland cell salt, and magnesium phosphate is helpful for an antispasmodic or a nerve stabilizer. So also like relaxation, calming. It supports Califos in the nervous system, which we just talked about a couple slides ago, number 6. MagPhos is also useful for cramps, muscle spasms, sciatica, which can be linked to that as well, where you've got like a spasm that stimulates the sciatic nerve. Neuralgic pain, it can help rebalance nerve pain and sciatica directly. Flatulence, so this is because it can help digestion. It helps the when you relax the smooth muscle, that peristalsis can work a lot more smoothly. So you are helping if you've got like gassy, digestive problems. Convulsions or muscle paralysis. So spasms in the muscle and convulsions can lead to a lot of muscle problems. This can be one of the salts that's deficient. Heart problems, you want to support with mag-phos. Chocolate cravings may be present if you're deficient in mag-phos, which I'm like, ding, 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 ding. I have had a lot of these mag-phos deficiency. And then blushing. And I thought this was interesting because I had a patient many, many years ago, and she had her nerve roots severed because she had a real severe repetitive blushing. And she's like, it looks always to people like I'm so embarrassed. I'm just blushing and blushing. And it would embarrass her. And she actually had the nerves disrupted, but I am thinking of other ways we could address that. So for this one, you can dissolve 1 to 2 tablets under the tongue for like a acute spasm situation. And then use it in hot water. So you can put it in a little cup of hot water, put 2 to 3 tablets in there, and then sip it, hold the water under your tongue and sip it every couple of hours. So you take a little sip, hold it on your tongue for a minute, and then a couple hours, you can repeat that until your symptoms begin to resolve. Also like headaches that are nerve stimulation and muscle spasm headaches. And the 6X potency can be a good idea for that. All right, Natmir is number 9 in the Highlands brand, sodium chloride. So sodium chloride is like, table salt. This is what's in the ocean in the most copious amounts. This is what's in your body in the most copious amounts as a macro salt. So it helps water distribution. So if you've got swelling, if you want to help flush out the lymphatic system and detoxify the body, this is really helpful. If you're dry, right? I live at altitude and like essentially the desert, it gets really dry. So if you need, you need extra moisture if you're in dryness, or excessive moisture. So like sweating, clammy, swollen, it also helps because it's water distribution. It's going to help rebalance that. This person may have a lot of craving for salt, which is something I've had. Head cold or congestion. This can be a great remedy for head cold or congestion because you're redistributing the fluids. Cold sores, you can use this remedy. Kidneys and sinuses will be most influenced. So if you have congested sinuses, you can try this remedy. Antihistamine or hay fever, overreactive, lots of fluid, with that hay fever response, or lymphatic support, which is to help detoxification. Number 10 is NatPhos. So this is sodium phosphate. It's going to help rebalance acid. So if you're acutely sick and you have a lot of irritation, you have heartburn, you have over inflammation, this is like a biochemical antacid. Reflux, heartburn, stomach problems, it helps the assimilation and digestion of fats. If someone has acne, blackheads, or a lot of greasiness, I actually had a friend whose daughter was having like a lot of hormonal shifts, and all of a sudden just her skin was like lots of blackheads, really greasy hair, lots going on out of nowhere. So we started this remedy. Rheumatism, so joint problems, aches, pains, rebalancing the acidic irritation to the brain cells. So that emotional situation would be like, I'm so irritated. So they'll exhibit hate, envy, criticism, jealousy, competitiveness, selfishness. I thought that was worth mentioning because I think that is so common, and you can harmonize the nervous system with this remedy. Okay, sodium sulfate helps remove waste from cells. So if there are symptoms of chills, acute viral infections, you're building up with toxins, sodium sulfate is very helpful. Malaria, flu symptoms, and any influenza infection. Regulating the excretion of excess water. So if you have lots of swelling, again, this can be useful. detoxification, improves liver function because your liver is part of that detoxification. It assists the end stages of digestion. So in the colon, where you're going to, help detoxification through that last stage of digestion and pooping. If someone has foul smelling gas, they may need some assistance in that end stage of digestion. Swollen hands, swollen feet, head injuries where there's swelling can be swelling in the brain. Sodium sulfate, cell salt can be useful. Symptoms will be worse with wet, cold, or damp weather. So if they have certain symptoms that are worse when it's wet, cold, damp weather, this may be a great remedy to try. Okay, and the 12th one is silica. This helps rid the bodies of impurities, and it's called the homeopathic surgeon. It's going to specifically go in and know what your body needs to rid itself of and help your body release that. If you've got abscesses or boils and your body's kind of like accumulating those toxic products, silica can be really helpful to release the impurities. Infections in the blood. So if you are in acute bacterial infection, or you've got a wound, chronic skin conditions and scarring, helps with the skin, strengthens skin, hair, and nails. You may have symptoms of light sensitivity if you are deficient of this salt, or sweaty hands and feet. Okay, so directions for use, as I said, 3 to 4 tablets, or if you have a liquid form, 10 to 15 drops, 3 to 4 times daily. Most of the practitioners I spoke to said 2 times a day is fine. That's what I did and had really good results. For children, you can use 2 tablets or 3 drops of liquid 3 to 4 times daily, or you can do it 2 times daily, morning, evening, and you'll get good results. You don't need to use it necessarily up to 4 times, but you can go up to 4 times if you are having more severe symptoms. All right, this is one of the books I read by Skye Weintraub that was really useful, simple, easily communicated, and it has a reference where you're like, oh, I'm having this kind of headache. Let me look at what the cell salt book has to say about that and get a little bit of a perspective on which cell salts would be useful. I helped treat my brother-in-law's gout, and it was like, some symptoms he was having. We looked at really specifically, like, why is, these are the things I think about as a doctor, like, why are these toxins accumulating in his body, in his joints, right? It's not just a matter of, oh, you have gout, you've got, uric acid, and you've got these salts accumulating in your body. It's like, well, why do you have these acids accumulating in your joints? Like, why is your body not detoxifying this? So this is why the cell salt approach was so intriguing to me, because I'm always looking for, like, why is your body not doing what it's designed to do and to heal itself? So I think this is a great resource for using this on your own. All right, an awesome practitioner I really respect and admire, and I think this guy really knows what he's doing, and he's an amazing person. So this is Dr. David Card, and he's at daveshealth.com. He is kind of an expert. I think he's actually a naturopathic doctor, but he's also an expert with cell salts, with homeopathy, with like lots of really great approaches. And interestingly, he does do private consultation. You can meet with him on the phone. He gives you a quick evaluation, and he really nailed it for some things that were going on with me. He wrote a book called Facial Diagnosis of Cell Salt Deficiencies, which is very interesting. It's kind of, if you're a practitioner, maybe this is a book you'd want to get. Or if you're just really interested in this stuff, and you kind of look at like how these deficiencies show up in the face with specific, features that you'll notice that person may be deficient. daveshealth.com is where you can go, or you can just call him up. He's in 2 different locations, but you can call up and book a phone appointment with him. And I think he's a great resource. So that's another option. Oh, and then I was going to talk briefly about Qigong, because if you're really energy sensitive and you're like depleted, tired, feeling sick, like there's just so many great ways to move energy in the body. So one thing I do every day, I'm just going to show you here. I'll do a little Qigong practice. I tap on the kidneys, maybe like 5 breaths in and out. helping detoxify the body. Then I come underneath on the spleen point. So you come here underneath the breasts, right on the bottom of the rib cage, tap here, breathing in and out. You can do this with me now. And then the thymus thump, coming right here to the thymus point. Come a little closer. And you can do maybe 5 breaths in and out, relaxing the body. In through the nose, out through the mouth. And then the K27 points, end point of the kidney meridian. I think this is one of the strongest acupressure points, Qigong points. I've had a lot of things resolve when I've used this, if I'm really spun out, if I'm not grounded. So inhaling, exhaling, and then underneath the eyes on the cheekbones, stomach meridian. Just get energy moving in your body. You'll feel this if you practice regularly. If you're really energy sensitive, you'll feel it right away. Okay, and then another one I really, really love that I do. A lot of times the nervous system can get a little discombobulated. So instead of being in a functional crossover pattern, you're in like a lateral pattern and the brain's just spinning itself out. So you do this cross crawl where you take your like left knee to the right hand, right knee to the left hand, and you just do a little march. I hope that comes across on the video. Okay, let me actually stop sharing for a sec. Oh, that's so much better. Sorry, guys. So we cross crawl. So we take maybe 12, 20, 100, at least 12 little cross crawls. I do this as soon as I wake up in the morning. I do my, each of these meridians, and I'll take maybe 10 minutes to do the whole thing. And then I do the cross crawls, breathe in, breathe out. You'll feel your body reboot and rebalance. I'll include one of my favorite Qigong videos when I share this video. Okay, so I'm going to finish with this. So that was the Qigong. I will share the link of one that I love. I'm not a Qigong expert. The thing I wanted to ask you is, let me know if you do play with this, if you do try this out. I'm not going to be able to give you like a diagnosis, like, hey, which one should I use? Hey, what do you think about that? And the reason is I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm claiming to be an expert with this. This is something I am discovering, but I think it's worth sharing. I think it's a really smart way to treat and nurture the body. And Dr. Dave actually agreed with me that he is seeing the same thing, that the people who are more like electromagnetic and identifying as being highly sensitive, understand that they are vibrational and really using, running a lot of energy through their body, are responding to a totally different kind of medicine and absolutely benefit from cell salt repletion, mineral repletion, trace minerals and salts repletion. But I do want to say that above all else, and I have found this as a physician, I've never found anything more powerful. The most powerful thing that will assist your healing is your own mind. Meaning your consciousness is the number one thing that's going to determine your health. It's going to determine whether you find and access tools that support your physical body. It's going to determine whether those work for you or don't work for you. It's going to determine whether you're clear on like, oh yeah, I'm going to go this way, or you're discombobulated and you just can't find your way. Your consciousness is the number one thing. That's why always, that is my first medicine. That is my first focus. That is what I've dedicated my entire medical practice to. And that is what I want you to remember. Do not get lost in the minutia of like, I need the thing. What's the right cell salt? Like, keep it simple. There is also the mix of all 12. You could just take that every day and replete your cell salts. But I would like you to share with me, what do you find? Was this helpful? Did you get results using this approach? Did you find, your body was nurtured, that your symptoms improved? Keep me posted. I am at drkimd.com, and I'm definitely eager to connect and hear from you what your experience is with this, what your thoughts are on this presentation. And thank you so much for joining me, and lots of love to everyone who is in the Embracing Health program. I've created this specifically just for you. I just realized I'll be sharing it with other people. So I shared a little bit more about myself so that they know who I am, but I love you and you're awesome. And I'm glad we're on this journey together, and I will see you soon.